Every day, we get more and more products being copied.
Always check the label.
Yes, there are how many fake olive oil there are in the world. Indian customer actually looking into something else than taste, nutrition levels probably, or what it is sourced from.
European Union pays a lot of importance on, identifying ingredients with PDO and PGI labels and making sure that, they're authentic. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of our podcast, the European Union Tadka. And today we have with us a very special guest. His name is Manuel Olveira, a Spanish chef who settled in India. He runs two magnificent restaurants in Mumbai. One of them is La Loca Maria, a Spanish cuisine restaurant, and the other one is La Pantera, which is a modern European restaurant. Well, talking about his cuisine, his culinary skills, his journey, there's a lot to speak to him about. But let me tell you, he's such a passionate chef who actually started his culinary journey when he was 14. Well, I'm very excited to share these moments with him and talk about his culinary journey, his passions, and most importantly, the produce that he works with. So let's welcome Chef Manuel Olveira. Chef, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Hola, Chef Ajay.
Well, hola, Chef Manuel, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, thank you. Thank you very much for having me here.
Well, Chef, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. And, I've been to your restaurant. It's an amazing place, the way you handle food. And I'm very, very interested in knowing more about you, your story. When I actually first heard that you started cooking when you were 14. So tell us a bit more about that.
Well, yeah, I started cooking very long time ago. At 14 years old, I believe it was. I cannot tell you exactly, it was 13, 14, around there. But I used to finish the school, go back home and help my mom in the kitchen. My mom was always in the kitchen of the restaurant. And my dad on the floor.
Wow.
So it's a family business that we had.
Right.
Not anymore. My parents are retired. And I'm obviously here in India. But yeah, I used to come back from school and prepare actually one recipe. My mom used to do custard.
Wow.
Egg custard.
Okay.
Always, I used to prepare that recipe with her.
Wow. I remember the first thing I ever made for my mom was a cup of tea when she was not well. And that's where it all started. And then the interest in being in the kitchen was more and more and more. I never knew what it's going to lead to, but here we are sitting. But the interesting part is that you were actually working with your mom in a proper restaurant, and so then,
Right.
then how did it go about? How did the chef Manuel Oliveira begin?
So, well, I started working there in that restaurant and used to be very busy all the time. But my mom didn't believe that I was about to become a chef. The day I came back home and I told her, I'm going to become a chef, I'm going to the culinary school, she didn't believe me.
Huh?
Yeah, she didn't believe me. She asked me, are you sure?
Wow.
Are you sure?
Yes.
See what is this work? Because we know how kitchens are, no?
Right.
There are long hours. You spend your life inside the kitchen. But I told her, I want to do it. It's my passion and I want to become a chef.
Wow, that sounds great, Chef. And I can already sense that, having this early access in life where you were around great produce, you were cooking with your mom, with such amount of great dishes. I think it also brings about that chef in you. Because when we are cooking as chefs, we are always worried about the fact that, we are talking sense in our food through the four pillars that I always believe that are very, very important, Well, if you talk about European ingredients, they always talk about authenticity, they talk about safety, they talk about sustainability. All of these pillars are very, very important in our cuisine. Now, tell us that how do you define these pillars to come into your cooking?
I think we should start talking about that European cuisine is based on ingredients.
Right.
Versus Indian cuisine that is based in spices. So for us to have these four pillars and the European Union authorities actually putting in place laws and regulations that protect the customers and also protect the farmers and the producers. Because I remember being a kid and seeing my mom going to the market with my dad, because they used to buy the stuff at that time,
Right.
to run the restaurant, and check from where they're coming from, who is the farmers who got that, who was the fish, I mean, which fish was the one coming from north of Spain, from Galicia, and not from other place of Spain because they didn't like any other fish in Spain. So these four pillars, which is authenticity, quality, safety, and sustainability, are crucial. Crucial because they protect the heritage of each and every produce and ingredient that we actually have for centuries. Some of them not only produce, they also protect techniques. Techniques like the aging of ham, or techniques of how to cure another meats in Germany or in Romania. So if we don't have these rules and regulation, we might lose our heritage.
Right. That's a very integral point because food and heritage is equal to memory and history. Because anything that we are talking about, like I'm sure that when you started cooking with your mum, there would be that one dish which is still stuck here because that was that's something that you were making over and over and over again. Which is that dish?
Paella.
Oh, paella, of course.
Paella.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little more in detail about these four pillars because I think as chefs who are handling food day in day out, who are pleasing customers with sensory experience in food, I think these four pillars stand very, very important. So talking about quality, how is it that you find the quality of ingredients much more different when you're cooking in Europe versus anywhere in the world?
Well, it's not different, but what I believe is the European Union regulations in quality and their focus in have the best quality available all the time in the in the EU and in the exports as well. I think it's influencing the other emerging markets around.
Right.
One of them is India.
Right.
And it's a very good thing that now there are customers, Indian customer, actually looking into something else than taste, nutrition levels probably, or what it is sourced from. When you call your mutton, you want to know where that mutton is coming from.
Right.
Here in India now.
Right.
15, 20 years ago, probably you didn't care much.
Yeah.
So that influence is very important. The European standards influence the markets around India and around other countries emerging, most of it.
Right.
And it's a very well value produce that we have in Europe, and in the European Union regulations protect that quality.
Yeah, I think because quality directly is proportional to consistency.
Yeah.
And as chefs, we know that, if you put something on our menu, if it's a lambrek and it, comes from, let's say, this part of Europe, and every single time, the produce, it's not, the weight of the lamb is not, different, or the flavor of the lamb is not different. If it's corn fed, it's corn fed. If it's grass fed, it's grass fed. So you know what you're going to receive. So how do you, kind of look at these quality points in the produce?
So the European Union has one main law, which is the traceability.
Right.
So every ingredient under the traceability law must be able to track back to their production warehouses or factories, and ultimately back to the farms. Again, encourage farmers and producers to keep the quality up to the mark, because the authorities can actually trace back all the way to your farm. There is a very good example, which is the milk in Ireland. They produce the best milk, I think, in the world. I use cream from Ireland. I use cream in my kitchens. I don't use anything else. Another is the Iberian ham in Spain.
Right.
Iberian ham in Spain, they are protected by the government to very high levels. They control the temperature, they know how many months they are curing, and all this you can follow with that traceability code. So if you go to the market and you buy one chicken, that chicken will have a label, that label will have a code. That code is a traceability code. With that code, the authorities can track back that chicken back to the farm and know how that chicken was fed and which kind of feed it was given to that chicken.
So as a chef, as a consumer, as a person who's cooking it, consuming it, everyone is sure about the quality that lands up on their kitchen table. So that's amazing. Another example, I think, is olive oil, for example, right? It comes from variety of regions. Spain produces some olives, Italy produces some olives, Greece produces some olives. So also because of the the weather conditions, sometimes the olive oil in Greece is more prized or more sought after, or maybe, the Spanish olive oil is more sought after. So it also gives that variety to the chef to use variety of olive oils because the flavors are obviously different. So I think the second pillar for all of us, chef, is authenticity, and it's so important when we are cooking. But let me ask you that when you are cooking with European ingredients, what do you look out for?
I look out for taste and flavor.
Taste and flavor. That's the most important part.
And how I get it
Uh-huh.
is actually following the seasons in Europe.
Okay.
You have to be a very seasonal cuisine. For us, which we do European food in India, we need to look very closely into the seasons that goes around Europe.
Right.
Because not every ingredient is in his best all the time. There's
Right.
only 1 month or 2 months or then 3 months that you can use that, and then later on you need to change to something else. So we rotate menus in that way.
With the ingredients, and I think ingredients play a very important role, and especially when we know that the European Union pays a lot of importance on identifying ingredients with PDO and PGI labels, and making sure that they're authentic, they're coming from the farms, like you said, traceability back. But talking about a few products, what are your favorite products that you use in your kitchens in India?
Olive oil.
Olive oil.
Olive
Right.
oil. I don't know why, but there is not much variety of olive oil right now in India. I would love to have more variety of it because it's not the same olive oil that I use for shallow fry that I use for a salad, but I use olive oil.
Right.
So I don't have that variety over here now. And also different olives.
Different olives.
It's not the same thing when you do an olive oil with a picual olive or a arbequina olive.
Uh-huh.
It tastes two different worlds.
Right.
And look the same almost.
Right.
But it's two different worlds. So that's what I'm talking about.
So you've been here 13 years, chef, in this country. What are the reasons you see that we have not accustomed ourselves with olive oil so much?
I think probably the price point.
Yeah.
One of them. And another one, olive oil is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
And the food tastes as olive oil. So that changed the flavor of the food.
Right.
So not the Spanish food or the European food, but the Indian food will change the flavor.
So for example, in India, we use a lot of mustard oil, which also is very pungent, very strong flavor. So if you use it cold for kebabs, it gives a beautiful aroma. If you use it for hot, you can actually smoke it. So the actual pungency goes, and then you can use it normally. A straightaway comparison cannot be drawn with olive oil, because I think if we heat olive oil to smoking point, then
the olive oil is dead.
it's dead.
Yeah.
So you can't. So that's why I think
It become bitter as well.
it could become bitter.
It's a bit bitter as well.
So how do you think we can have more ways of getting olive oil into our system?
In your day-by-day life, in your everyday life, for sure you can.
How do you use it?
In everything.
Yeah.
I cook with it. I mean, I believe in every household there is not only Indian food cooking. There is also other cookings.
That's
usually oil in that cooking that is not required to have that coconut oils or any other that they use. In salads, everyone eats salads, even Indian salads,
Right.
which is the cucumber, tomato, onion, and carrots.
Right.
Put olive oil on top and salt. You will see how it changes.
And what are the other produce that you've been using from the European Union, being in India, and you can say that my this dish is very authentic because of this ingredient?
There is one protected by a PDO, which is pimentón de la Vera.
Mhm.
The PDO is called pimentón de la Vera. It's the smoked paprika from Spain. There is nothing close anywhere else in the world that tastes even close to that pimentón. There are two kind of, one is sweet, which is a non-spicy one, it's not sweet,
Right.
and the spicy one. I use both. Without these two pimentón, without these two paprikas, I cannot cook Spanish food.
Wow.
So if I wouldn't have that paprika here, I could not be able to cook Spanish food in India.
Wow.
And it comes directly from Spain. There is no other way. There is nothing that you can even, I can taste the difference immediately.
And that is why we are talking about authenticity, because the PDO label to these paprika makes your food very authentic.
Yeah, because all the ingredients that are under the PDO level, you have to be connected to the place that they are made.
Right.
They have to be collected from there or grown there or farmed there, and also they have to be not only collected, they have to be processed in that area.
In that area. Right.
Everything has to happen in this geographical area.
And that is
no other region.
And that is how it is
And
protected.
That's why Pimentón de la Vera is protected by that. And if you are doing something which is not that way, they will not give you the PDO
Right.
label. So you will not have the certified product in the market.
Right.
And that's why it's so important that we have the regulations so the farmers and producers follow the rules, and we always have that quality product all the time. I don't have to think twice. I know this pimentón will be good. So I get it to the kitchen and I don't have to taste, oh, this chili powder is more spicy, less spicy. No, it's always same.
Tell us more about these PDO products and PGI products that you use in your kitchen.
It's the sweet potato from Madeira. It's called batata. In Spanish also we call it batata. That is from
In
Portugal.
Mumbai also we call it batata.
Yeah.
Yeah. Batata.
Oh, batata.
Yeah, that's what we call batata.
Yeah.
So you spell it the same, but you speak batata.
Yeah.
We say batata.
Okay, I didn't know that.
A is a little muted here. Yeah.
So yeah, for that sweet potato is a PDO from Madeira. It's been planted, grown and collected there.
And how do you find it different from the normal sweet potato?
The sweetness.
The sweetness.
The sweetness.
Wow.
The sweet of the Madeira sweet potato is incredible.
And
the
what,
natural sweetness that comes with.
and what about some of the cheeses or dairy that?
The one I can tell you is the wine.
Okay.
The PDO from Spain, there are quite a few, but one which I like the most is Ribera del Duero. The wines that have been produced in Ribera del Duero are protected by the PDO, Ribera del Duero PDO. That makes sure that 100% of the grapes has been collected in that geographical area, no other region.
Right.
But not only that, there is a full list of rules and regulations that the producer have to follow to be able to get the PDO level. Like how many branches they keep on the plant for the grape to grow. Every year they cut the plant down,
Wow.
the vineyards, and how many branches you keep for them to grow is very important, because more branches, more productivity. More productivity, less quality.
Oh,
So they
wow.
control that. They control the amount of sugar inside the grapes. They control the alcohol levels of the wine. They control the way they press that juice out of the grape. They control also the waste after that, which is the skin and the seeds, and they use it for making other alcohols, colorujo, or there are also cosmetics and essential oils.
Fantastic. I mean, this is like going down to the last level of understanding of the fruit, the produce, and that is how, the standards are so strict and you get a better produce and you get a perfect produce every single time. So we've talked a lot about PDO. Let's now talk about PGI.
Under the level of PGI, the products that are under that level, they have to be processed with a particular technique, which usually are very old techniques, or in a particular way, or in a particular facility, but the actual produce doesn't have to be from that region.
Right. And that's how the authenticity is maintained. That's how the consistency is maintained.
Yes.
Quality is always great. I mean, that's wonderful to hear that, Chef.
Well, I think it's also very important for the farmers to keep the authenticity levels very high. It's crucial for the reputation. It's crucial for the lives. It's the bread and butter. They have to make sure the product maintain the quality and maintain the authenticity in order to put it out of the market, and give credibility to your product.
And that's what builds trust, right?
Yes.
For consumer trust, that's very important.
Yes, build trust. And now the samples is the German beer purity law. So that comes from centuries ago, and they only allow the German producers to use 4 ingredients, which is barley, hops, water, and yeast.
Right.
And they cannot use anything else.
And everything of that is measured. So the water, the TDS of that water, where it comes from. I think that law is very...
And that's why German beers are one of the best, or I think the best, no one of the best beers.
But
in the world.
unfortunately, chef, we also live in a world which is very fast. You know,
Yes.
we want everything
Yes.
fast. We want everything
And more.
and more. So, and cheaper sometimes, right? So, so I think that also is giving birth to a lot of counterfeit products. There's so much counterfeiting happening.
Mhm.
How do you see that?
It's a very difficult job to do because there are many products getting copied or counterfeited. One of them is the Parmigiano Reggiano. They have systems in place. One is called the blockchain technology, that they get data in blocks and is protected, and you cannot hack into it. European Union is trying to fight, but it's a long way to go. Every day we get more and more products being copied.
Right.
Every day, and this is a big problem that we have. But the European Union again, they are putting system in place to catch.
Right. So
These
for the
people.
consumers, I think the safest way to see that if I'm buying the right produce is to always check the label.
Yes.
You know, so if you're buying a Grana Padano, then we always know it's a PDO product. So that label will help us to make
Mhm.
sure that we're buying the
Yes.
authentic product.
Yeah, yes. It will always assure you that it's coming from that region,
Great.
no other place.
That really helps, chef, because I think for normal consumers, sometimes they just look at a Parmigiano Reggiano
Mhm.
in the market and they'll just pick it up,
Or olive oil.
or olive oil.
There are how many fake olive oil there are in the world.
Right.
I mean, it comes in my country news every here and there.
People are very casual in writing, you know, olive oil from Spain,
Yes, yes.
you know, olive oil from Italy.
You can write whatever you want in there, but if you need to find the label behind.
Right. I've also come across olive oils which are, you know, using colors to get that nice
Mhm.
grassy green olive oil color. Fragrances to give that olive oil fragrance, but the oil is nowhere close
Well,
to what.
olive oil, not even olives.
So it's very, very scary actually.
In Spain, there is problem with the Iberian ham as well. They are faking the Iberian ham as well, and but the authorities are behind it. They are finding it out and they are fighting for it.
Wow, there's so much counterfeiting happening today in this world, and that actually tells us that how much more important it is to go and find out the labels, read them carefully, and then know is your product safe or not. Well, that brings me to a point of safety. I think as chefs, we are always aware of using safe ingredients for our consumers. That's like an unwritten pledge that we take before we enter the kitchen. But today, the consumer is faced with so much variety, like we just spoke about. How does one look at safety of produce, that, you know, my product is absolutely safe for my family?
Well, the European Union safety measures and standards are one of the strictest globally. I can't think in other more strict than European Union regulations. That protects again the customers from a bad quality produce or badly processed produce or giving them different kind of medicine like antibiotics. And for instance, in the pork market is heavily regulated. In cows, in every animal that is being grown in Europe is heavily regulated by the European Union.
And what about pesticides? You know,
That's another one.
yeah.
They regulate the pesticides and also regulate the seeds.
Hmm.
Healthy, proper seeds.
So they make sure that it's not genetically modified.
Yes,
Or,
it's not modified, it's proper, because that can cause a lot of health issues in the future. Not in the near future, but in 20 years' time.
right. So it's very important to know the devil around, that he exists, you know, and
Mhm.
we have these challenges that, you know, we are faced with in today's food world and food markets. Now, knowing that, how does one make sure that which produce to pick up? Because, you know, if I go to Italy and I pick up a tomato, you know, I know the flavor of it is so sweet and so amazing. The tartness is just right. It's not over tarty. Now, how do you make sure that, you know, when you are calling for produce, what all do you look for?
That is where the European Union authorities come in. In food business, from restaurant to farms, they have to comply with each and every regulation to do business.
Right.
There is no two ways about it. And the authorities make sure that inspections take place every time here and there. You don't know when they come, they check. If you don't complain with one regulation, they will close down your business.
Wow,
That's very strict in food chain. It's regulated, you know that it's not gonna be injected by anything. They're not gonna be put pesticides on top that it will create health issues for you later. That's where the EU regulators and EU inspectors come in.
Right. So, Chef, we talked about safety a lot. Now, this draws me to a point that, whatever practices that we use today for farming, are they sustainable or not? Because that today is very important. We are not just living for today, we are obviously living for tomorrow. So, how do you see those sustainable practices in the European Union products?
Well, the European Union encourage farmers all over Europe to switch to the organic farming. One of the examples is the olive oil in Greece. So the EU subsidies help the farmers to switch
Right.
to the organic farming. Obviously, organic farming is more expensive,
More expensive, more time taken.
more time taking, but the European Union is taking the effort to help financially all these farmers to be able to switch, and make sense for them to switch from the
Right.
old farming to the new era of farming, which is happening right now in Greece or maybe also in Italy. So in Italy, the warehouses are being powered by solar.
Mhm.
They're using much cleaner energies and consuming much cleaner energies. Why? Because they want to fight the climate change.
Right.
The main focus of the European Union to be sustainable is to fight the climate change.
Right.
And they do also with livestock, regulating the management and feeding of the livestock as well, animals.
Right.
Not only in plants like olive oil or tomatoes.
Right. So it's very interesting because sometimes as chefs or consumers, we can only look at the end product, and not think about what has gone behind.
Yes.
How is it grown?
Yes.
Am I actually following, sustainable practices? Where I'm coming from is that, as consumers, we love to talk about that, oh, I am using a sustainable product, but we never want to take that step towards sustainability. And it's great to hear that the government themselves is not just encouraging the farmers, but also actually paying their bills.
Yeah.
You know?
Helping financially.
Right. And that
You know?
makes it so much viable to have an organic farmer saying, yes, I'm going to do organic farming.
Yes.
So that's amazing.
Yeah.
What are the other sustainability practices?
In Spain, many of the wine producers are zero waste.
Zero waste, huh?
Yeah, they're using and reusing and recycling everything that so they are fully sustainable. They are using solar power to power their pumps to water the plants. They are recycling the water that they are using for the process of making the wine,
Right.
and using it again to water the vineyards
Wow.
through solar power.
Wow.
So I know about that because I actually have visited few of producers,
Right.
and they show us how they do this process of zero waste. And again, they're using even the after one of the grapes, after the press, they actually reuse that also.
And what do they reuse as?
Compost.
Or compost.
Compost, orujo, which is another alcohol, cosmetics that are regulated by the EU as well, but what they do with that.
So one thing is to speak about zero waste, but the other thing is to actually build
Do
that
it.
as a practice and do it consistently. Wow, that's amazing.
No, the farmers are very proud.
Yeah.
The farmers are very proud that they are doing something good for the world.
Right.
So, and they want to show it. So
Right.
you are able to visit their farms and their wine produce facilities, because they are very happy to show you how they are better now.
Right. And I think you touched upon a very important point, Chef, because as chefs, I believe that, if I'm entering the kitchen and if I don't have a smile on my face, it's going to show on my food.
Sure.
And if the farmer is not smiling, it's going to show on the produce.
Sure.
So I think that's so correlated, so beautiful, right? And it's just amazing how one produce can we look at sustainability, at quality, at authenticity. All of this, brings to great quality food.
Yes.
And I think that's where I am a big fan of European Union products. So, Chef Manuel, it's been very interesting, talking about all the four pillars and how they are so deeply connected, in our daily lives, whether we are chefs, whether we are basic consumers, cooks. I think it's a part of our life. Now, what I gathered from you is that most of these practices are age old. They've been going on forever. It's like classics in our menus. They never fade out.
Yep.
So some of those practices will remain. But what are the future trends that you see that in the food industry, or when we're talking about sustainability, what are the few things that you are seeing that are happening around the world, and especially with the European Union produce?
I think the future is that customers around the world are more aware of transparency and sustainability in their products.
Right.
Um, European Union regulations and the shape of policies that the European Union is having for the last probably 50 years is helping and influencing markets like India,
Right.
to actually be aware of all these issues that you can solve very easily with very simple.
Right.
Chickens that come to my restaurant, I know exactly which farm they are from. They actually farm that chicken for me, and they send it when I want it.
Right.
And they wait, I want it. And they actually have called me there. It's next to Kopoli, very close by. So they have called me there to visit the farm with them, because they're actually very proud of what they are doing and how they are doing. And it's actually really interesting to see how European Union policies has been introduced in this market as well.
Wow. So that's amazing because, as a chef, you're making sure that you are taking that mantle on to make sure that if I've heard about a policy and it is good, I must use it in all the aspects of my life. I think very
Yes.
interesting thought that, yes, 10 years back in India, nobody cared about where my chicken is coming from, where my cheese is coming from. They would just hear about a good cheese and they will use it.
But now people is changing.
Yes. And that, I think, will relate very well to, how we are eating, what we are eating, and how much we are eating.
I believe the Indian population is actually caring more for the ingredient
Mhm.
in the last 10 years than before.
Right.
Probably since I came here in India 12 years ago until now, people is more aware of what Sivas is eating.
Right.
Of what pork is eating, of which vegetable are eating. Not only the flavor into it.
Right.
If the masala is good, then it's okay. Now, no. Now also the ingredients have to be good.
Right.
That's the new trend.
Right. And also, I think with the new trends emerging with cuisine and culinary, what we also see is that probably getting this produce 10 years back was a little more difficult.
Definitely now.
But with now, open policies and,
Yeah, to have from the farmers and the government,
right.
both together.
So now when we see that more trade is happening, more produce is coming with us. So we are now more aware of more ingredients. We can have chocolates from Belgium. We can have raspberries from France. We can have so many produce at our table in India. And I think that is so amazing because today the world is like an oyster.
Yeah.
And it's become small.
Yeah.
It is such a big world, but it's become small. And I think thanks to, the European Union for creating this benchmark in sustainability, in quality, in the produce, the authenticity in the produce, so that today in a country like ours, where we have so much produce which we use, but there's so much more to imbibe. And it's been an absolutely brilliant conversation with you, Chef. And thank you so much for sharing those nuggets, sharing your life. And I wish you all the best. I wish your both restaurants all the best. And I think you've been here 13 years. And I just see that this is just the beginning of Chef Manuel Olveira in giving India the great produce and the great food that you've already been giving. Thank you so much for being here on the show, Chef.
Thank you very much, Chef Ajay.
Gracias.
Gracias. De nada.
Yeah.